Why We Chase the Kite in The Kite Runner by me, Alexander Jennings. The Kite Runner begins as a heartbreaking story of the unlikely friendship between a wealthy boy and the son of his father's servant, caught in the midst of a religious and political revolution within their country. The author, Khalid Hosseini, shows the growth of these characters until they ultimately force each other apart, where from there you discover the ever-so-present theme of regret become instilled within the main protagonist, Amir. After the departure of his brother Hassan, Amir finds himself questioning everything he has done in search of the thing he desired most, approval from his high-standing father Baba, and whether his sacrifices he made were worth the reward he never fully got. The journey of redemption in age is one that spans half of Amir's lifetime, covering continents and oceans alike, until finally he finds his source of acceptance from his father in America on his deathbed, soon after his marriage. The peace was soon uprooted by an opportunity to redeem his wrong committed so many years prior back in Kabul. He is given a quest to find Hassan's son and bring him home safely from Afghanistan, preserving his best friend's name he had a part in destroying. Throughout his quest, he finds redemption in brutality, in commitment to Hassan in a way he never gave, and in the gift of life to a boy he loved from the beginning unknowingly. One theme present within this novel is satire. The quote, "What does he know, that illiterate Hazara? He'll never be anything but a cook. How dare he criticize you?" Early on in the novel, Hosseini uses satire to show the early forms of mental superiority Amir starts to have over Hassan. In this quote, Amir has become offended after a story he created has been critiqued by his seemingly best friend Hassan, basing the ridicule on their religious standing and differences. From this specific diction used in the quote, you would be guessing that their relationship be much more critical from Amir's hostile and unfriendly words he uses towards Hassan. Another would be symbolism. Gingerly, I walked up the driveway, where tufts of weed now grew between the sun-faded bricks. I stood outside the gates of my father's house, feeling like a stranger. I set my hands on the rusty bars, remembering how I'd run through these gates so many times as a child, for things that mattered not at all now, and yet seemed so important then. When Amir returns home in Kabul where he grew up as a child, he notices how old and weary his father's house had become. This could be representative of all the memories Amir has left behind and forgotten about over time, or forcefully. These cherished moments, at the time, had faded and grown old just as Baba's house had, and would never have emerged if not for the revisit to the very house where they were made. Rossini uses symbolism throughout the novel for a multitude of things, adding a new layer to each character and creating connections to past and present, character to character, and reality to dreams. Lastly would be foreshadowing. This isn't the end for you either, Amir. Someday I'll make you face me one-to-one, Asif says. The backbone of this statement made by Asif, the known bully in Amir's town in Afghanistan, is that almost towards the end of the novel, Amir and Asif actually do meet up once again. Asif, being the leader of the Taliban local forces, forces Amir to fight him one-on-one to determine whether or not Amir can take home Sohrab, Hassan's son that Amir has come all this way to rescue. This device is used occasionally throughout the novel, and usually comes to be a sort of relief for the character. The fight that Amir and Asif got into gave Amir a sense of relief and redemption, for he felt he was finally being punished for his offenses he committed oh so long ago, and he welcomed it with open arms. Redemption. For thou, 1,000 times over. A statement made by Hassan in their childhood. This plain statement, mentioned near the beginning and end of the novel, carried a powerful meaning I deemed as one higher than most. On page 67, Hassan said these words to Amir when he was on his way to retrieve the blue kite that they had cut down in the finals of the kite flying competition in Kabul. You can feel Hassan's unwavering loyalty and commitment to Amir in these few words, of which Amir took for granted. It is also said by Amir on page 371 toward Hassan's son, Sohrab, after he had rescued him from Afghanistan. This use of repetition serves to show how Amir has finally overcome his cowardice and has become a more honorable man, a man of which now may be able to mutter the same words to his long-lost best friend and actually mean them truthfully. One text-to-text connection between the Kite Runner is, as I have found. In the Kite Runner, Amir struggles to gain his father's approval and make him proud of him as a son. This same type of distant yet yearning relationship can be seen in How to Kill a Mockingbird as well between Scout and her father. Throughout the novel, Scout is learning about herself and trying to make the relationship she has with her father something more personable and accepting. They both seek approval from somebody they yearn to be closer to, and that search spans a vast amount of the novels before it finally unveiled in an unexpected way. In the novel, Amir and Hassan have a strong friendship between one another. Growing up, they did everything together and would do anything for one another, never questioning each other's place and always supporting each other no matter the price. For me, this compares with my friendship between my trio of friends, as I tend to call it. It is not every day that you make this type of connection with a person, and when the relationship occurs, it should be cherished and not taken advantage of. During the time of the novel, and within the novel itself, the Taliban were a group of international terrorists that claimed that they were doing work under the word of God, whilst they killed innocent people all the while. Though they are still a current group, only much smaller, a similar large organization like them is ISIS. ISIS is forcefully in control of territories in Syria and Iraq and claim that they have a sort of spiritual or religious motive, just as the Taliban in the novel. The two settings within the novel were Kabul and America. Kabul was a rugged town in Afghanistan that was the base of Amir's childhood. He experienced the brotherhood he had with Hassan here, as well as felt the pain of his departure from his bedroom window on a rainy day in this town. This town served to be the contradiction to Amir. His kind yet cowardly nature was set in an environment that was anything but, even more so after the Russian invasion. Afghanistan then and now is known to facilitate a tough and minimalistic lifestyle for all, and Amir was never meant to survive here. The only reason he was able to stay prior to the events was because of his luxurious lifestyle given to him by his wealthy father. After these abused privileges are stripped away from him due to the invasion, he is cast out of the very place he calls home. He is not able to adapt and evolve to this new version of his country. In America, Amir learns who he is as a person and he grows and experiences life. His family no longer has a reputation or a foothold in the local government, so he is now forced to adapt and start becoming the man that his father Baba wants him to be. This new environment promotes his success, also because of its urbanized culture. Amir was always dreaming of being things that were looked down upon in the cultural environment of Afghanistan, but he is now prompted to pursue in the things he wants, such as his skill of writing. Also, during the time of his immigration to America, there was an influx of people coming as well. He had come over with a new community of his own people, and men were being looked up to make this new place a safe haven and create a proper home for each other, such as Amir had sought to do for his wife. These are three of my favorite quotes within the novel. With me as the glaring exception, my father molded the world around him to his liking. The problem, of course, was that Baba saw the world in black and white, and he got to decide what was black and what was white. From chapter 3, paragraph 12. This quote stood out to me because of its testament to Baba's tyrannical power over his own world. How he is in control of everything his hand touches, and he is the master of his own world, even if that world envelops others such as Amir, Hassan, and Ali. War doesn't negate decency, it demands it, even more than in times of peace. Chapter 10, paragraph 20. When Baba says these words, Amir is not listening, although he is seated just a seat next to him. I feel these words could be compared to Amir later on in the novel, when Rahim Khan is urging Amir to be a decent human and go back to Afghanistan and search for Sohrab. You know, Rahim Khan said, one time, when you weren't around, your father and I were talking. And you know how he always worried about you in those days. I remember he said to me, Rahim, a boy who won't stand up for himself becomes a man who can't stand up for anything. I wonder, is that what you've become? Chapter 17, paragraph 34. When Rahim Khan mutters these words, a big shift happens within Amir. He now feels horrible within himself and is subconsciously fueled by a desire to prove his father and Rahim Khan that they were both wrong. This intrigued me because of the sudden motivation his father instilled in him even after his death. These are some unique discoveries that I found later on after reading the novel. The pomegranate fruit has been seen throughout history as a representation of humanity's central beliefs and ideals, namely, life and death, rebirth and eternal life, fertility and marriage, and abundance. I thought that was interesting because of how the pomegranate tree was kind of the safe haven for Amir and his friendship with Hassan, and yet that is the very place that their friendship also started to decay at its worst moment whenever Amir started throwing pomegranates at Hassan. The Kite Runner is narrated by Amir 4 days after the final events of his decade-long story. That was just a cool fact that I found later on, not knowing of how alive the story was within Amir at the time of him telling it to us. In April 1978, Afghanistan's central government, headed by President Mohammad Dawud Khan, was overthrown by left-wing military officers led by Nur Mohammad Taraki. Power was therefore shared by two Marxist-Leninist political groups. In my final analysis of The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini was one of which I very enjoyed. I liked how you could see the evolution of not only the main character Amir, but every character within the novel over time. You could feel how Rahim Khan grew more weary over time, how Baba learned to come to peace with himself as his son through his time in America, and specifically his last days. And through Amir, you could see his growth into a man and tell how his courage had increased throughout his adulthood. I wished that there was more after the novel ended. I was left wondering how Sohrab adapted to the American lifestyle, if he had accumulated just how Amir had when he arrived, or if it was easier or harder for him due to his past experiences and weary trust in Amir at the time. Overall, I believe Hosseini did a magnificent job with the creation of this novel and Amir alike, and I was left wanting more.